Welcome to part 9 of building a dynamic community website using PHP, MySQL, and Flash, created by Flash Building and brought to you by developphp.com. In the last lesson we left off by creating the view profile button functionality and creating the profile.php page, which is the universal page that is used for any time anybody's profile has to get viewed on the site. And so let's go back into Flash here, and we're going to put up the functionality now for the edit profile button, and that will complete all three buttons here on the header for the logged in user. So let's give this button, edit profile button, an instance name of edit_btn, and it's going to be a very simple matter to go into the third keyframe here, press F9 on the actions layer there, and copy all the code from that last button we created in the last tutorial. Just those few lines there, then I pasted them in right under that section of lines, and I'm going to rename all this to edit, so it'll say code for the edit profile button instead of code for the view profile button. And I'm going to change these words to edit, or else we'll get duplicate variable names and functions here if we don't change it. So anything that says view profile should be edit profile. This should say edit. This should say edit. And this is going to, this one should say edit too. And this one's going to a new URL of edit_profile, which we haven't created yet. I'm going to create that now. So that's pretty much all the functionality you need for all three of those buttons now, and it's all in this one keyframe, the third keyframe on the ActionScript 3 layer. And they're sectioned off pretty good, so you can see what's going on. It's pretty clean. And since there's only three buttons, we don't have to do a huge button array or set a dynamic loop for rendering out the buttons and their click functionality, because it's not really necessary. If you had a whole stack of buttons, like 20 buttons, more than 6 or 7 buttons, then it's handy to do that. But if you have less than 5 buttons, it's no problem. Okay, so let's go to Dreamweaver. And here we have profile.php, which we created in lesson number 8. And we're going to rename this, save it as, file, save as, edit_profile. So now we have a new PHP script called edit profile.php. And it's pretty obvious what this one's going to do. The user's going to be able to edit their profile on this page. So the first thing we want to do is make sure we do a login check, because we don't want anybody coming to this page if they're not logged in. We want to say, hey, you're not logged in, get out of here, or go register and join. So we'll go ahead and do that first. So right here where it says session start, we're going to add under that. So I just automatically added it in, and you'll see I have claiming session start to grab any session variables that are present for this logged in user. Then we run an if condition here. This condition is nested in these 6 lines, and it says if is not set session ID, then we give the message to user saying only site members can do that, register or join here, and we give them a link to the register page. Then we include message to user.php and immediately exit the script if they're not logged in. So this message here that's in HTML format there, you can see, gets sent to the message to user.php, and that page is brought in, and this script exits right away, so none of this other code will process. So that ends the login check, that line right there. Okay, so now if they are logged in, it's business as usual. So we connect to the database using our include script, and then we don't need these if and else statements that we had in the regular profile.php page, so we can just zap all that out. But we do want to keep that ID, that session ID right there. And I'll tell you what that's doing in just a second. So what this is doing, this line here, is placing the session ID variable into a local PHP variable, which does not need to be filtered, so we can remove these two lines because it's not a posted or URL variable. It's a session variable that can't be manipulated by the user. Okay, so, or by the member. And then what we're going to do is take that ID and run an SQL statement or an SQL query, selecting all fields from the my members table where ID equals this user's ID. Then we run a while loop. We set a while loop to run in that SQL queries array, and then all of the items will come out, and we can access them and put them into local PHP variables here, like we did in the last tutorial for the profile page. And we don't need the last login date for this section. We don't even need the sign up date to show them in this section. We don't need the email. We shouldn't really ever show anybody's email, any of your members' emails directly on their email address shouldn't be laid out directly on their profile. Most sites do a in-house commenting system to where members can get in touch with one another, or they put the comments just like YouTube does right on the page there, or MySpace, you know, or Facebook right on the wall. Okay, so, and maybe actually I will show something like that in this tutorial series. I'll show you how to do a comment area on the person's page on their profile. So each member will have a section where other members can leave comments for them. So here we're going to access all these variables. Yes. And maybe I'm going to change a couple of things, because one of the members that joined Web Intersect already asked me why I was gathering phone numbers, and that's a good question. I have no need to gather anybody's phone numbers, and it's in the database, that field. So I'm going to remove that database field, that column, and put a new column in there, or a new field name, and use it for something else. And I'm going to show you how to do that, maybe not next the next part of the series, but a couple of parts down where we'll need to do that before we get in any heavier. Okay, so here we're going to keep all these same mechanisms. We don't need the style sheet link. Actually, that should be up top, because they're going to need to access that. So that should be up here. Maybe the phone can be traded out for the style sheet preferences. Okay, so we'll just add that there for now, even though we don't have anything in the database to access that information. So we'll just comment it out, but we're going to use it. And what else do we have here? Okay, now we're going to change some things in the HTML section. Now that we're done changing what we need to change in the PHP section of this page, because basically we want to grab all this data, put it into forms, and have them be able to edit all the data real time on this page. Kind of like MySpace and YouTube and all that does. It's not going to be as fancy as those guys. It's just going to be base functionality. I don't have all year. Okay, so yeah, we're going to change the HTML stuff now. Okay, so we want to make sure we don't get any duplicate description and keyword tags here in our head section of the HTML file, or the HTML section here. And so we'll just put Web Intersect website profile edit area for this user's name, and keywords will be edit profile data information. We don't need their city and country and state in that one. Okay, so those will all be unique. Web intersect. We'll change this to edit profile area for username. We'll just put the first name in that one. Actually, no. Leave the last name there. Actually, there would be duplicates if John Smith joined a bunch of times. Then all these tags would say web intersect profile editor for John Smith. So maybe we should add something in there like their ID or something to make them all unique. You can do whatever you like to make sure your system runs right. There's going to be a lot of things you have to address that I don't address here in this tutorial series. There's going to be a whole lot more research that you'll have to get into if you build a serious system that's running online with live users. You'll have to learn a lot more. Okay, so, but I'm going to show you the base functionality to, maybe get people excited enough to go and learn the whole gambit. Okay, so print style sheet. This is going to turn to main.css, back to main.css, our default style sheet. And okay, so let's go to design view. Now here in design view, let's take that table. This was the one that we used for the profile page. It's still here on this HTML section of the new page. We're going to put 2 columns. We can get rid of this PHP include there. Actually, no, we'll leave that there. And this column here will be for a button, an edit button. That way they can have a button that corresponds to each section that we put in here. So we're going to go to this PHP include, make sure it's going to bring in the picture. That's what we want. And then right next to it, we're going to have an upload form. So to keep the videos relatively short, I'm going to stop, and we're going to continue in part 10, where we'll continue on with the edit profile page and lay in the things that we need to lay in. And I'm quickly going to show you how to make that change in the database field like I was talking about before. Okay, so see you in part 10, and I'll just continue it on right now so there's not too much of a time lapse here.